right, and we're back. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Fantastic Plus, for being our awesome channel sponsor. Go download now. Fantastic Plus is an amazing app that just came out. Thank you once again. All right, Teri, how are you doing? We're back. So before we went in our quick short break, we were talking about your TED Talk, right?
Yeah. So the TED Talk actually came about because of the ride. Most of what has happened to me since 2020 came about because of this ride. At the end of it, I was able to say, I can do anything I put my mind to. I just rode across the United States on a tandem. What is it that I want to do? And one of those things was become an author. So I now have 3 published novels, my book about riding across the United States, and even a children's picture book. And the other thing that I wanted to accomplish was become a public speaker. And the first step with that was my TEDx talk. And the topic was about something that I learned as we rode across the United States. This was during 2020. So it's COVID summer when people were very much afraid of one another. And in the United States, it was very much a political unrest summer. There was a lot of just a lot of things going on. There were buildings that were burning and people that were protesting, and there was just a lot of stuff going on. And we were actually told by a lot of people, you shouldn't go, be very careful, you could get hurt, all of these kinds of things. And as it turns out, we rode the entire way across the United States, and what did we meet but wonderful, amazing people. Wonderful, amazing people who were different socioeconomic statuses, who were different politically, who were different in their religions, who were different in their nationalities, who were different in their sexual orientations. Like, it didn't matter. We met people and we found that they were wonderful. And so my TED Talk kind of talks about that idea of how do we get to that space? How can we stop putting people into the other category? Where we fear them or we hate them, even worse than fearing them, or whatever, where we put them into this category where they're not like us, and now we have to somehow push them away or make them not as good as. And my belief is the way you do that is by getting to know people who are not like you. I get to know you, I find out about you. Once you and I have talked a little bit, any of our differences don't matter as much, because we have found a way to connect. So as soon as we find some connection, some human connection, then the things that aren't alike between us don't matter as much. If I meet 10 people who are not like me, who all fit in a certain category of people that I've labeled as other, and I find that all 10 of them are nice, and that I like all 10 of them, I have to start changing what I believe. Maybe in the beginning I can say, well, he's an exception to the rule. But after a while, I have to start saying, maybe my rule's wrong. Maybe people who belong in this category aren't all bad. And the way I did it with my talk was I said something that makes people laugh. I said, what if you just hate a blonde author? I said, and then you meet me and I'm a blonde author and you say, hey, I kind of like Teri. So do you call me an exception to the rule? Yeah, you might do that. You might say, well, I don't like blonde authors, but Teri's okay. But what if you meet 4 of me or 6 of me or 10 of me? Now you've met 15 blonde authors and you like all of them. You're eventually going to have to say, it's not blonde authors that I dislike. Maybe it was that one, and now I had a false impression about it, but it isn't about them being a blonde author. And I feel that way about any group, any kind of us and them thing that we put out there, is get to know people in that group that you're afraid of, that you've labeled as other. And you're going to find that there's more in common with them than there are things that can separate you. When we went across the United States, we met people from all walks of life. And what we found were wonderful, giving, caring people who got up in the morning, who wanted the same kinds of things out of life that I wanted. They wanted love. They wanted happiness. They wanted security. They wanted warmth and the same things. Maybe we would go about them differently, but they're so similar to me. And I think that if we can focus on our humanness, then the things that separate us just aren't as important.
Wow, it's beautiful. Have you watched this TV show called Lost?
Yes.
There were the others, but they were
Yes.
actually
The others.
evil. The others, they were
Right.
actually
Well, and and the thing is I'm not saying that you have to absolutely love everybody. There are people in the world I've met that they just don't. But try not to then categorize them, and say, well, I didn't like that person, and that person was, a particular political party, and therefore it must be the political party. No, it's just the person. It's do you know what I'm saying? It's okay. There are people out there that you're not going to like, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I just hate the idea that we then make these huge generalizations and say, because I had this experience this time, all people that fit that category are now in my other.
Hmm.
And it would be so much better if we just learned to take people for who they are and make decisions person by person instead of group by group. And I mean, I see it in the United States right now all the time, where, if you're one political party, you're not allowed to like someone from the other political party. And that's just craziness.
Oh no, you need to kill them. Just shoot them in the neck. What the fuck?
I know, like it's crazy to me. Like that, it doesn't even make sense. And most of the people that I know that are like my friend, the people in my circle feel the same way. Like, what in the world is going on? But unfortunately, this is becoming more and more common, where if you don't agree with someone, you now hate them. And if you hate them, that means that you can kill them, or that means you can hurt them, or that means that you can whatever you are doing. And what happened to humanity? To me, it's perfectly acceptable to say, I do not like what someone is saying. I do not believe what they were saying. I do not agree with what they are saying at all. And then you just walk away from that. I do not like it. Okay, well then don't be part of that. That's to me the way it should be. And it's the way it should be as we meet people too, instead of clumping them together and saying, well, because you voted this way or because you once said this thing that now you can't be my friend. That's just crazy.
Yes, for sure. But I think you are assuming a level of emotional maturity on people that don't exist. Like, it's not taught on schools. Like, they don't go to schools and teach kids how to like feel their feelings and recognize empathy and understand everyone.
Or even just have regular communication with regular debate, and to be able to think about why you believe something, be able to defend it, and then be able at the end of the day to walk away and say, it's okay, not everyone's going to believe like I believe.
Yeah.
That's healthy to me, to be able to have a conversation with someone that you don't agree with and then shake hands and walk away and just agree to disagree. The world is made up of a lot of different people, and you're not going to find anyone in the world who believes exactly what you believe. And if that's what you're looking for, you're going to be alone, because no one is going to believe everything you believe. And so this idea that we label ourselves and we put ourselves into these groups, and then groups can't speak to one another. And, I'm an optimist, I guess. I really believe that we can go back to a space. There used to be a space where people could have an argument, disagree about something, and then still have dinner together and be okay with that.
So what do you think it happened? Why this space is gone?
I think there's a lot of reasons. I think one of the things, and this isn't going to be super popular, but we have a 24-hour news cycle now. And with a 24-hour news cycle, you have one story that's big, and it replays 24 hours a day for 3 or 4 days. And in order to do that, they can't keep saying the same 5 minutes of story. They have to bring in people, and they have to talk about it, and they have to start debating it, and they have to pull out these little fine things and argue over it. Well, then you have people who have a different